The bubble's final stage has begun. OpenAI and AMD just announced a bombshell $100 billion deal. Searches for AI bubble are skyrocketing to record highs. Paul Tudor Jones is saying the market feels just like 1999. And today was so active that Robinhood couldn't even handle all of the demand and crashed at open. Today's episode is a crazy one. We're not wasting any time either, so let's get right to it.
As we can tell, AMD was a bombshell today. Yes, there was a crazy report that came out that they are having a multi-year deal with OpenAI, and we can see that in pre-market, the stock was explosive. It was actually well over 30% at one point today and closed up over 23%. For being such a large, influential stock like AMD, this is one of the biggest deals that we've seen in a little while for a chip stock like them. Now, we've been seeing a lot of chip stocks have some pretty crazy deals lately, like Nvidia and others, but for AMD specifically, they're announcing this move with OpenAI, and they're essentially going to be giving them some gigawatt power. Now, this has happened in the past with Nvidia. They are actually set to supply OpenAI with 10 gigawatts of power, but they're going to be deploying up to 6 gigawatts of AMD Instinct GPUs over multiple years, beginning with a 1 gigawatt rollout in 2026. Now, there's a lot of details that do go into this deal overall. OpenAI will receive warrants for up to 160 million AMD shares, roughly 10% of AMD itself at 1 cent per share. Now, there's a lot of milestones for this, and there's a lot of things that have to go on for a lot of these warrants to be exercised. But one of the biggest things I saw was a specific AMD stock price target, and this actually escalates all the way up to $600 per share. And a lot of traders out there are wondering, okay, are we going to end up seeing AMD at $600 per share? I mean, that might be something in the future, right? AMD's well off of 600 right now, but I know a lot of people are looking at this number and saying, okay, will it get there? Again, keep in mind that there's price targets that escalate to that number, so just keep that in mind. I'm not saying AMD is going to hit 600 right away or anything like that, but it is interesting that that would be the upper echelon of these targets here.
Yeah, and I will say AMD definitely had a big step in the right direction today, as like you pointed out, they just popped up in a massive way. You know, they're above that $200 point as it stands right now. But Tom, once the market opened, just like a bunch of sellers started to lock in profits after this move. I think it was hard for people not to when you have a 30% gap up.
Definitely, and it was a problem today for a lot of traders who wanted to long AMD, right? On that first initial dip, it dipped down to around 216, maybe even the 212 support, and both times it failed to continue and hold those supports, and it ended up falling to the downside even more. Now, I will say for tomorrow, though, Mike, I am glad that AMD held above $200 today. I thought that that was a solid thing to see the stock do, and if we can continue to hold above $200 into tomorrow, I think that that would be a great sign for a potential retest of the high from today, closer to 224 to 227.50. We can see that 227.50 high come in right around open at the end of pre-market. So if we can really rip past that, I think that's where a lot of the bullish price action will happen on AMD. But holding that $200 support level will be critical. But Mike, I mean, this caused so much craziness this morning that whenever the market opened, Robinhood actually had an outage. Yes, they did it again. We keep saying this time and time again. Robinhood is one of the worst platforms out there for glitches and outages, and again, we saw that play out again today. Unfortunately for Robinhood users who were trying to sell AMD options whenever they were up, thousands of percent at open, I did see some scenarios today where people were trying to lock in gains and they just couldn't sell.
Yeah, very, very frustrating. Like, I will give Robinhood some credit in how they've improved over the years, but it's really hard to see glitches like this, especially in the times where you need to be able to trade the most. So that was tough to see, and Robinhood actually got hit pretty hard today off of this news, and the sentiment surrounding it was pretty bad. So I'm very excited to see how their stock does over the coming days. But Either way, it is no secret that we are in an AI bubble right now, and it's a big one too. Basically, we can see that searches for the term AI bubble are skyrocketing right now to record highs after today's AMD news. And a very successful macro trader, Paul Tudor Jones, I'm sure many of you have heard of him before. He's best known for predicting and profiting off of the 1987 market crash. Today said that the ingredients are in place for a massive rally before a blow-off top to the bull market. So he also is basically saying that the situation right now is very similar to what we saw in 1999 with the dot-com bubble, and there are a handful of very interesting things to pick from this information. First off, he's not necessarily saying that the market has to crash right now. He's calling for a blow-off top, so he's basically saying that, we might be in this 1999 stage where the market is towards like the, tail end of its run, which also tends to be the most explosive, crazy, and opportunistic environment, but it can't last forever. At some point, people are going to start locking in profits, and those who are a little bit over leveraged are certainly going to feel the pain. And Tom, it looks like we have a nice snapshot from exactly what happened in 1999 right here. So what are you seeing in this sense?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. We had this massive dot-com bubble rally, and a lot of people are attributing our current rally to the AI bubble. And we can see that during, we'll just say the period between 95 and 1999, how explosive the market got. But I want you just to zoom in a little bit on those last couple of years where we started to get a lot more volatility, especially up around the top. And these are all 2-week candles, guys. So just realize all the back and forth action, like within the circle around the top and the end of 1999. There was a lot of up and down price action in the overall market as that started to come to an end. Now, again, I don't think that this is something to incite a lot of fear, but we should be excited in the short term because he's saying that we're still in this upper echelon of the overall move, which is great for now, right? But it's just something to keep in the back of your mind and to be wary of a possible AI bubble. People have actually been calling for this for years, and whenever you go and you look at certain stocks, whether it's Nvidia, which is one of the more popular ones, we go to a weekly chart and we start zooming out. I mean, these stocks have been so asymmetric over the past 3 to 5 years that it's getting crazy, especially some of these stocks like Palantir, which have risen from, near, $5, $4, $5, $6 a share all the way up now to $189, $200 a share or so in the course of just a couple years. So it's just something to think about. We're not trying to be fear mongers here, but we like to keep everybody informed to be ready for if something does start to take effect.
Well, you have to be, right? Because, when you have giant moves to the upside, you can't not expect volatile moves to the downside as well. It's just a necessary, it's just the nature of the beast. So, yeah, let's keep a close eye on this situation. It's definitely pretty exciting, though. And Tom, looking at the market right now, SPY held up pretty good today. We're still at all-time highs. What are you seeing with SPY over these next few days?
Today, I did notice around the end of the day today, we might have posted a bit of a lower high with the SPY, and I was a bit worried about this happening as the SPY was getting closer towards its all-time high here, close to 672.75 or 672.70. We can actually see that it rejected down today around 672.50, just under that point. So this is going to be a very nice double top range to watch for the next couple days. If we could really break above that 672.70 all-time high, that's where I'm going to really get a lot more bullish over the next couple trading days. I think it would be crucial for SPY to hold above 670 tomorrow. That was a pretty big range today. It did fall under that very quickly, right around open, down to around 669.50, and then it popped back up. So if we're able to hold this range and continue to hold that into tomorrow, I'll be pretty confident with SPY. But if we start to break that down, I do think that there's a trend that we need to watch for here of higher lows in the ultra short term. And if we start to break that 669.50 area, that will break this overall higher low trend, and that's where I think we could end up falling back down a bit more.
Yeah, that is a key risk, especially considering how well that level held today. Like, it would be a different thing if, SPY, was not as consistent as it has been over these past few trading days with these higher lows. But especially when the market's trending like this, you certainly don't want to see that structure break. So let's keep it close on watch. And also, of course, that all-time high right around 672.68, because that is everyone's favorite level right now. But one thing that I definitely did want to point out, though, is we are seeing something right now that has never happened before related to the VIX. And this is important because the VIX is like you could say like a forward-looking indication of what, the smart money is expecting going forward. And essentially what we have seen are 5 consecutive days where the S&P 500 increased as well as the VIX. And this is especially rare because normally the VIX only increases when the market is going down. So to see it increase with the market also going up, that is quite literally showing smart money traders expecting the market to be more volatile going forward. And Tom, if we go back to a chart of the VIX, especially like this April, we can see that the last time we saw like a big VIX pop was during that, tariff liberation day crash. So, I don't think there's anything like to be, truly fearful of just yet, but at the same time, I don't think this data should be ignored.
100%, especially since the VIX has released in 1990. This has never happened before. So whenever you see something that rare in the stock market, it's definitely something to pay attention to and something I'll be thinking about. Whenever we navigate these next few trading days, I'm just going to realize that, look, the S&P 500 has been making new highs. We've been running up pretty constantly, but there could be a period here where we do start to see a possible slowdown or a pullback. And again, I know that we've been talking about dot-com bubbles and a lot of different things here, but that is just something to continue to keep in the back of your mind right now. But Mike, I will say though, whenever we look at the long-term statistics, things are still actually looking pretty good right here. Whenever we look at the NASDAQ and we see that it's been up 6 months in a row, this generally leads to the market being higher 100% of the time, 1 year later, which is nice stats. And even whenever we look at 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later, the stats actually look pretty awesome, especially once you get to like 3 weeks and 1 month, the market being green 100% of the time. Sounds pretty awesome to me.
Hell yeah. And what's really nice is that, like, when you are in this, you could say, blow off top stage of a bubble, it is during those times where you see the biggest, craziest up moves. It's just you have to make sure to protect yourself, where when the pullback eventually does come in, you won't get ran over. So, just don't get too sucked up in the bullishness and greed. But overall, looks pretty good. And then another thing that we should definitely keep in mind is tomorrow will be pretty exciting because Tesla is teasing a new product. So, Tom, I know there's not a ton of information related to this, but Tesla had a pretty good day. It popped up by 5.5%. So what is going on here?
Yeah, they are actually teasing a new product release on October 7th, and they've released 2 cryptic videos here. One of them actually shows a Tesla car. We can see right here, it looks like a new version of a Model Y. Now, I have seen a lot of people, a lot of rumors circulating out there that whenever they do release this new product, it will be their new economical vehicle, which they are saying is like a Model Y, Model 3 variant that'll have different aspects of each vehicle, but mainly be more like a Model Y. So I think that that'll be fun. That might stir up some Tesla price action and, maybe get traders excited in general. Then there was another cryptic video where they released a fan, it seemed like, almost like a cooling fan. It's circular, as you can see. It almost kind of looks like a vehicle tire or a rim, but nonetheless, it moved around a bit strange. And again, there's a lot of people out there, but there's a lot of speculation out there, but there's no real clues as of what this could be. So again, let me know in the comments, what do you think it's going to be? Do you think that they're going to release a new, cheaper version of their Model Y or Model 3? I think that that's probably what's on the ultimate agenda there, but who knows? Maybe we'll get something fun with these cooling fans here. But Mike, Tesla's stock has been pretty hot lately. It was up 5.4% today ahead of this. And I know recently, into their delivery numbers, Tesla was rising quite a bit. But at the end of last week, they started pulling back a bit. So traders are really looking for this event to be the catalyst that keeps this overall rally continuing here.
Yeah, and Tesla's still very close to its own all-time highs. just around that like $490 level. And what's nice about Tesla in a trading sense is that it's a stock that, people care a lot about. When it moves, it tends to move in a strong way and, really get a lot of attention for multiple reasons. So depending on what this product ends up being, if investors really like it, that might be a situation where we can join in on the action, push the price higher and take advantage of the buying that comes into play. At the same time, if it ends up being a flop, as we've seen before with Tesla, the opposite can be true as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if this one had some good volatility tomorrow. We shall see. But also looking at tomorrow on the economic schedule, we can see there's nothing too crazy going on for tomorrow or even the rest of this week. We do have some FOMC minutes data set to release on Wednesday, as well as some consumer sentiment data set to release on Friday. But besides that, nothing too crazy. Technically, Amazon Prime Day does kick off tomorrow, so that can be something with Amazon. If you think Amazon will do very well this season, maybe it'll be worthwhile to look at Amazon in a bullish way. But that's basically it. We have a Powell speech on Thursday, but it's also a pre-recorded video, so realistically, Tom, nothing too crazy here.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's too much going on like the economic side of things here, but I will say though, Mike, whenever we look at the overall schedule for this week, something that just cannot be ignored also is gold and silver. I know that this isn't necessarily something that's on the schedule or it's not a crazy event, right? But we are still seeing gold and silver go crazy. GLD was up 1.88% today. We go to the daily chart and it's just getting even more parabolic. Every time I think gold's going to finally slow down, it gaps up again and continues on this crazy rally. Even if we go to silver, it is almost even arguably more straight up and even better price action than gold's breakout has been. So I'm watching these two very carefully in the short term, Mike. There's a lot of stocks associated with these. BTG is one of my favorite gold stocks. It rose up 4.9% today, and it's been moving up a ton in the short term as gold rises. I know we always like to look at GLD as well, and maybe even GDX for some of the gold miners, but I will say BTG has been pretty enticing lately with some of these 5% moves.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just because like the dollar is just getting killed this year. So between the dollar getting killed and the government still shut down and the sticky inflation data that we still have and all of the geopolitical tensions, there's a lot of demand for safe haven assets. So people are buying up gold and silver stocks, and even Bitcoin, because Bitcoin actually hit its own all-time highs today at $126,000. So yeah, it's quite a market we are in right now, which is nice and exciting. Looking at the earnings lineup for tomorrow, basically all clear. Earnings season will start to ramp up over these next few weeks. So Tom, how about we get into the fun stuff for today, which are some setups and predictions. And a stock that is definitely on my radar is Nvidia, and it is to the downside. So they actually had a negative reaction to this AMD OpenAI news/deal, and also by OpenAI striking this big deal with AMD, it certainly makes them a little bit less dependent on Nvidia. Either way, investors perceive this negatively for Nvidia, and it's definitely still on my radar for a potential bearish continuation, especially if we break below that support around $184 a share, as that has been a key area of buying for today. Nvidia is one of those stocks where they are a powerhouse, but at the same time, they're also up a lot. And when you have big news, just like we saw with AMD and OpenAI today, it can definitely spur a change in short-term sentiment. We'll see if it breaks below this level. If it does, it's definitely on my bearish radar.
Yeah, I really like that as a possible area to snipe it if it does start to break down. This is a pretty crazy setup in the way that Nvidia has been pulling back over the past few trading days, actually, since peaking out at that 190 points. So it'll be interesting to see if they end up pulling back or not. But I also like how they rejected at resistance today, too. That was another good sign back to the downside. But with my first setup, I'm looking at Archer Aviation to the upside. They are exploding right now. Even in after hours, they are even more explosive. We can see just how much this stock has been rising recently. If we go to a daily chart, it recently bottomed down around $8.23. Now it's all the way up in after hours to 1450. So it is getting quite the move going here, and we can see it's actually breaking above a huge daily range. This daily range and overhead resistance around 1370 to 14 was a critical level. Now that we're breaking this, keep watching Archer to the upside. It's more of a momentum play than it is something where I'm looking for a specific level to break, but I must say, looking at $15 is going to be critical here. If we actually go over to the Bookmap, we can see that $14 was a critical area from today where there was almost 300,000 sellers stacked up. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see that 15 was the next big spot. So now that we cleared $14, we're going to watch $15 very carefully. I'm sure tomorrow, if we open up under 15, this number will change. There might even be more sellers than what we saw today. But nonetheless, 15 will be a big psychological level. And if we can break that and continue the rally, watch for more great momentum here.
Yeah, it really is. That pre-market move is pretty crazy. Another stock that is on my radar is Ford, and it is to the upside. I know I mentioned this one yesterday on news on how Trump is considering significant tariff relief for the production of vehicles in the U.S., and he also said that U.S. tariffs on heavy truck imports are going to begin on November 1st, and they're going to be 25%. Ford has been holding up pretty well over these past few days, and I'm eyeing it up for a potential breakout past that $12.80 to like $12.85 area. If it can break above that, I think it's worth keeping on the radar for a short-term play, but we'll see if it breaks.
Yeah, that is a pretty critical area from the past couple trading days. And, Ford moved really well on Friday, and I'll be watching it for a continuation. Whenever you go to a daily chart, it's pretty insane to say that Ford's been breaking such critical levels here in the short term like it has been. But with my next setup, I'm looking at APA for another upside breakout. Yes, APA has been running up a lot recently, but what growth stock hasn't, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm sure we're going to get a lot in the comments, but nonetheless, APA has been running up in the short term. It's been consolidating a little bit over the past couple weeks. We can see it's been kind of failing to really break out above its recent high, closer to 2580. Now, if we can really get above that 2580 recent high over the next couple trading days, I will be watching for a good continuation with APA. I just want to stress, though, that this is a huge area of resistance. I am confident in the way that APA has been moving and coming back to test it so quickly, which is a good sign. But still, you have to look at this level with some respect since it rejected so sharply last time. But if we see that break this week and even over the next couple of weeks, I will be watching for another upside play with APA. I just love the overall uptrend that it's been in, and at these periods of consolidation like we saw the past couple weeks have been providing some good buying opportunities back to the upside.
There we go. All right. Well, besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have BitMine, ticker symbol BMNR, to the upside.
BMNR, as we can see, is approaching a major resistance in the short term. If they end up breaking out above $63.50, then watch them up.
With the next one, we have Open Door, ticker symbol OPEN, also to the upside.
Open Door, yes, they were explosive today, up 14.4%, as they're actually going to be accepting Bitcoin for home purchases now, their CEO said. So watch this one in the short term. If it can break out above $9.70 at its high of day, then watch it up.
And then with the last one, we have Peloton, ticker symbol PTON, but to the downside.
Yeah, as we can tell, Peloton has been a little bit rough over the past couple weeks. If they end up falling down under $8.25, just under the low of day from today, then watch them to the downside.
All right, so we have these three stocks on the radar for potential continuations if and only if they break through the levels listed. These stocks are volatile and they're crazy, so it's important to, as always, protect yourself above all else. Whether you look at these three stocks for tomorrow or anything else, prioritize making smart, long-term oriented trading decisions. If you need help with that, or you just want to learn on more information on how to do that, definitely feel free to check out the Key Lessons channel of the StockedUp Discord. It is completely free. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $1.27 million big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol XRT. Very interesting setup today, where the trader here is risking $1.27 million to make $4.58 million. The trader here bought the 84 strike put options that expire on November 21st of 2025. And for our advanced traders out there, this is technically a put debit spread where they also shorted the 77 strike put options. XRT is an ETF that follows the retail sector. So considering that this area of the market is certainly weak relative to many of the hot areas of the market like tech, AI, anything chip related, quantum, anything like that. It would make sense that if we did see a pullback, this sector might be a little bit more vulnerable than other sectors, and especially considering if we see like a decrease in consumer spending, whether it be due to the shutdown or just a weakening economy as a whole or anything else, this area of the market definitely can get hit pretty hard. Either way, very interesting setup, and I'm very excited to see how it does.
It really is. Like, whenever I think about retail in the short term, it's definitely something that worries me a little bit, especially as, we keep hearing more talk about the economy potentially weakening a little bit, and especially jobs data, right? If jobs data starts to get south, you would think that would be pretty bad for consumers and consumer spending. But whenever I look at XRT and I just look at their top holdings overall, we can see Etsy, Sally's, Victoria's Secret, Academy Sports, Dillard's. So there's a lot of big names in there. I will be watching this one carefully, Mike. Of course, if we do see the retail sector pull back, I think that XRT could fall well under its support here around $85. $85 is going to be the main area that I watch. It's been a pretty big area of support / resistance in the past here.
There we go. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and definitely consider obliterating that subscribe button to get big money trades just like this one shown to you every single day, of course, as well as the most important news, information, chart setups, SPY levels and analysis, historical stats, and basically everything you need to know about the stock market every single day. It takes us hours to make these videos, and again, we cover basically everything you need to know. If you subscribe, you'll get our videos recommended to you more often. But Tom, before we continue on, we have to give a giant shout out to one of the craziest profits posts I saw in the Discord. And today's member of the day is Ren. He posted a profit from AMD today where he put $2 into this position, and he ended up making around $868. So that is pretty crazy. He said he just put these in as a high risk setup, and clearly it paid off. A nice 43,000% return.
I don't know that I've ever seen that in the profits channel, Mike. 43,000% there. And, I get it, right? It wasn't, it was $2, right? $2 put in. But again, still able to come away with $800+ in profits. What a play. I cannot believe what I saw in the profits channel today with some of these AMD screenshots. It was insane out there.
Seriously. And like Ren said, he bought these call options as a joke and it paid off crazy, but a lot of other people were had some pretty good positions on AMD and just absolutely crushed it. So shout out to everyone who did well on AMD today. Looking at the market for tomorrow, it should be exciting. As we know, the AI bubble is getting more and more crazy. Looks like we're closer to this blow off top phase, which is exciting for traders because it makes for the biggest moves, of course, to the upside, but eventually when the bubble unfolds, it is pretty crazy to the downside as well. If you're into short-term trading, especially if you haven't tried it already, check out Bookmap. You can save a lot with the link down below. It's the X-ray vision for the stock market, and I have a feeling it'll be very useful to a lot of traders, especially as the market gets crazier throughout the rest of the year. Thank you for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.